All right. You're on with your boy Scott Williamson, otherwise known as the DJ Dubshine, man. I'm here with my homies, man. I'm kicking it with Shawnee B, Fresh, MC A.D.E, JAYQUAN. We're gonna be talking about the late brother Marquis from the Two Live crew and kind of share stories and really talk to some people who actually knew brother Marquis and what they can share and what he did for the music industry as a whole, especially with hip hop back in the late 80s or mid to late 80s and 90s. So I really want to get into it. I'm really excited to be talking with everybody here about it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and bring everybody on. How you guys doing?
Groovy, man.
Good.
Good to
Doing
hear
great.
it, man. Good to hear it, man. I'm gonna just introduce everybody before we get started. So we have MC A.D.E, my man Adrian Hines. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. What's popping?
Oh, it's good, man. It's good. We're just here to reminisce and talk. I never really got to know brother Marquis like I really wanted to, but from all the interviews I've done or heard rather, he seems like such a humble brother, man. Like really humble. Really had a fascinating story behind being part of Luke Skywalker and later on Uncle Luke, and and all the trials and tribulations. But just to kind of give a little intro to everybody that's here, so everybody knows who everybody is. MC A.D.E, this is Adrian Hines. I've had you on before. We've spoken about your, music career. You're pretty much the pioneer and founder of bass music. You released like a string of hits, producing so many artists on Foresight Records, which was a record label owned by your father, Billy Hines. And you guys have released tons of singles and albums like Just Something to Do, How Much Can You Take, and All Out Bash, which was one of my favorites. In the Arms of Bass, Ain't No Thing. And then most recent, we were talking about this before you came on backstage. The Let's Get It single dropped a few months ago, and it really did big things, man. I've seen a lot of good. The video, and especially down in Brazil, man, people really digging that sound, as usual, the Latin crowd. Then we've got my man JAYQUAN. Me and JAYQUAN go back, way back, man, to teenage years, man, back when we used to record in the recording studios in Richmond, Virginia and Hopewell, Virginia. JAYQUAN is now a staff writer, man, and he's a content creator with LL Cool J's Rock the Bells magazine. And a lot of his writings have appeared in like Rolling Stones, Universal Music's You Discover Music, and the local Richmond magazine. And so JAYQUAN is like a music historian. He has like an emphasis on hip hop. He's a lecturer, narrator, webmaster, record collector. And you've been writing about hip hop in general for over 20 years, and also about the art of emceeing, the evolution of hip hop and rap records. So you're just a wealth of knowledge, man. It's an honor to have you on, and I'm sure you have a lot to share on the topic. And then we've got my man here, Shawnee B. Fresh, and we've actually worked together with music. I was lucky enough to appear on one of your tracks, man, on your latest album, man, which is really dope. I've got 2 copies of the album and everything, so it's really dope. And Shawnee B. Fresh been around doing it since the 80s as well. Pioneer the electro funk and the West Coast sound, as far as the electro and rap and hip hop goes. Done so many things, worked with so many different labels. We talked about that. I've had you on the show as well, you and Jay, matter of fact. And so how you guys doing, man? Just let me know what's going on. What's been happening with you, Jay? We'll start with you, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Just keep it busy, man. Just keep it busy. Writing and doing a little bit of as you said, content creation, and I've been working on documentaries as my new kind of foray that I'm going out into. So I've been doing some filming for a couple of documentaries I got coming up. So just keep it busy, man.
Perfect. What's been going on, Sean?
Oh man, just you know, staying out of trouble as I said before, man, and working, recording a lot. You know, pretty much living in the studio, man. Getting out, and doing some live shows, and still pushing that second album. And other than that, man, that's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, I've heard the last single that you did. That was dope, man. I've been checking it out. I know that stuff is popping off in Germany. It ain't no question about it. I've lived
Yeah.
there, so I already know.
Yeah, we had a bass maniac from Germany on the vocoder, and we had the illustrious DJ Mooney D out of Brooklyn on the scratching on that track. So you know, we trying to cover all bases in one wop, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And MC A.D.E, how you doing, my brother? Nice to see you, man.
Good to see you. I'm doing good. We'll say what's up, JAYQUAN. What's up, Shawnee?
What's up, man? What's going on?
I'm chilling, still on the grind, you know, doing what I do. I'm actually in Brazil right now, and you know, working, doing shows and things like that, and just, you know, just at it, man.
You having a good time down there, I bet, though, too, man. I've seen some of your
Yeah.
video clips of just little personal clips. I know you having a great time.
I've seen that too.
Okay, making me mad, man. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been back to the States. I haven't been in the States this year, really.
Wow.
So, because I was in Colombia, and then I came here, you know, so I was in Colombia for about 3 months. Then I came here. So, yeah.
I hear you, man. Well, that's awesome, man.
I just want to interject real quick, man. I don't want to throw you off your timeline, but I did not know, you know, as many Foresight records as I had, I never knew that A.D.E's dad was the owner of that label. You know, most of the early SHAUNY stuff that I came across, and you know, Roxanne's parents, you know, all that stuff on Foresight. Never knew that was your father's label. Respect to you, man. Your records were big here in Virginia as well. We were kind of melting pot here in Virginia. We got kind of everything back in those days, from the electro, from the New York stuff, you know, kind of all around. And of course, Go-Go was right up the street from us. And, you know, we had all of that, but I never knew that Foresight was a family thing, man. So respect to you and your dad for that.
Appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, yeah, man. So on to the topic, man. Brother Marquis, man, his story is just, I've been watching so many of his interviews from different people. And I just walk away from it kind of mixed, man, because I'm kind of glad he seemed to be of a high spirit, regardless of everything that he talked about. But at the same time, his story was just kind of tragic, man. Any thoughts about that? Maybe JAYQUAN, I know you've done articles and things like that on 2 Live Crew and things like that. What are your thoughts about just in general, like how, you know, he was, you know, his experience in the industry as he related?
You know, the music industry, man, is, you know, to me, is inherently, you know, unless you got an independent situation like both of the brothers here, you know, have, it can be inherently crooked, man. And their whole situation, you know, as I know it, you know, with the rights to their stuff and how they were kind of, the way their catalog went with the different labels. I think Lil Joe was the last label putting their stuff out, and it was pretty bad, man. I know I saw an interview with him on Vlad, and you know, he was talking about how Fresh Kid Ice, when he passed, you know, he pretty much passed penniless, you know. So I thought the whole story of the whole group, you know, especially the 2 MCs, that's a tragic story that we hear so many times in the music industry. So yeah, I totally agree. It's a sad and too often told tale, man.
What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, man. I really didn't know. Well, I knew Fresh Kid Ice was going through some things health wise, but I had no clue that Marquis was dealing with anything, you know. So when he passed, it was a big shock to me. You know, and he was a really cool guy. One of the first, well, probably one of the first 2 or 3 people I met when I first went down to Miami in 1989. I got a crazy story about him, man.
Yeah, we got to hear that later on, man. And
Yeah.
Adrian, what are your thoughts? And did you know Brother Marquis when you were working back then?
Yeah. You know, right when they came out, and we toured back in the early days. And Marquis was an eccentric guy, you know. Um, you know, he was a little different, you know. He and the business, the part of the business that was, you know, to say whether it was dirty business or just the business that you deal, that you sign, or that you did, you know.
Didn't start. Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't, you know, it was stuff that was new to him, you know, like a lot of kids to get into business, you know, and don't have someone looking at them like, you know, like kin, family, just as something for that person to get what they want, you know. That's pretty much how people do it, you know. That's how the business goes, you know. So, but what that does, it affects people, and you know, it makes them feel so isolated and like, hey man, everybody's out to screw me, you know, this whole thing is a sham and yada yada yada. It's just, it's a misunderstanding, you know, of
Mm.
the business, that any business, you know, you get what you negotiate, and you know what you set yourself up for, you know.
Mm. Mm.
um and the world ain't, it ain't, you know, it ain't fair. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It
Right.
ain't kind, you know. You have to, sometimes you got to be shrewd, but you don't know these things, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and you think other people, and they laughing in your face, and they smiling with you and partying with you, and you thinking they got your back, but they just looking out for themselves, you know.
Mm.
Because their ignorance is there as well, you know. So you know, to just label it, you know, I don't do that, because everybody's kind of suffering from the same thing, and that's the ignorance of how
Mm.
we should be doing stuff, you know.
Mm.
Um, so Marquis, like I said, you know, he was a different kind of brother anyway. You know, Marquis was crazy, man. He was real eccentric, you know. He just
Mm.
you know, but he was cool, you know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
you know, we had fun together, you know, we kicked it, you know. Um and when I say crazy, I just mean, you know, I just call, you know, my friends or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you just be tripping, you know. And he had his way of tripping and doing stuff and make you laugh or whatever. But you know, he was a good brother, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
he wanted, you know, things to be a certain way, and they weren't, you know, and he didn't understand or expect, you know, to end up like, you know. And then they went through some things, man, you know.
Mm.
um that whole situation, you know, far as them dealing with Luke, and then they felt like they weren't getting their money, but Luke felt like he was giving them their money, and they was blowing their money. So where that lies in the middle, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Um, could he have given them more? You know, anybody could do anything, you know, but did he feel like, hey, I put this money out, this and that, and I'm doing deals like this. This is a standard deal. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But these are things. So I don't just look at things like one-sided, you know,
Right, right.
because there's you know, there's different ways. You have to look at things differently. You have to put yourself in those positions, you know, and have a different perspective because, you know, I'm sure, you know, Luke, I'm sure if he knew better and he felt like he could have, it probably wasn't his obligation to do extra or make a better deal or what have you. So he just didn't. But if we learn that, you know, we should take care of our people. We should, you know, make sure they understand certain things and say, hey, you know, just to each one teach one, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to help each other. But you know, we a lot of things we don't know, you know, and especially being black men coming up, you know, I mean, education was deprived from us for a
Mm-hmm.
very long time, and we still got the scars and open wounds from the
Mm-hmm.
damage that was done to us, you know. And that
Mm-hmm.
stuff don't go away, man. You know, people got
Mm-hmm.
money and chains and all that. That don't mean that ain't nothing, man. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Because when you
right.
damage the brain, man, everything is screwed, man. You know,
Yeah.
um, so I don't, like I said, I don't, you know, point the finger of blame. Because talk and you know look at how like even after they got away from him and then they got over to homeboy the Joe character and
Mm-hmm.
you know and he you know he pulled that move he did. Now I know they say that he Luke owed him money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they tried to do a deal allegedly where they was trying to hide money from Shadi, taking them to court at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So so somebody came up with the brilliant plan. I don't know if it was Joe or Luke, and said, well, you know, put the stuff in my name. And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, and hey, they won't see no assets. You ain't got none, yada yada yada. And so something like that happened. And then when it came time, from my understanding, it's like, okay, let me get my stuff back. And it's like, well, you owe me this and that. You know what I'm saying? You owe me these fees for, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever court, whatever, you know, lawyer fees, whatever. And he was like, uh, I guess it pissed him off, you know, because it's like, what you trying to strong arm me or something, or how you what you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, hey, you don't give me my money, you ain't getting this, you know, and then that whole situation happens, and you know, even though you know, I hate to see one thing about it that hurt me. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Mm-hmm.
is something that, you know, I never, you know, even talked to Luke about or whatever. We never talked about, but you know, I felt his pain on that
Mm-hmm.
because even if he owed this dude, you know, probably less than 100 grand, you know, and to his calculations, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
for him to lose his whole catalog,
Mm-hmm.
Everything he worked for and did, all this stuff.
That's rough.
Boy, you know what I'm saying? That's
Imagine.
boy, that's a bloody Sunday. You know
Think
what I'm
about
saying?
how big Friday, that movie Friday was so big, man, and then their soundtrack was on it. You know what I mean? Like the Hoochie Mama song was on that, and so I don't know. It sounds like he didn't see a dime from that either, man. That could have been, uh,
Man, you
man.
you got to understand the magnitude of what that is, and I know you understand what I'm saying. What kind of revenue came from that music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like for years. I mean, he lost all of that, and now dude been collecting. He collected. I mean, had to been millions of dollars. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then Luke can't do. He couldn't do nothing with his music. He couldn't. You know. He couldn't do nothing, man. It's like, boy, when you being a creator, you guys should know, being a creator and having your music, and now somebody takes all your stuff and you can't do nothing with it. You can't do nothing with it yourself. Oh, boy,
Mm.
look at here. That's rough. You know what I'm saying?
That hurts.
That hurts, man. So I feel for him on that, Far as with them not being able to uh, stay cohesive as a team, and that's just par for the course, unfortunately, with the
Yeah.
ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard stuff right there. What you say, Jay?
I totally agree. Yeah, that whole Joe situation. I didn't know exactly what it was at first. I would see all these compilations. They put out so much music. Always had like the animated covers, and I'd be like, why is this on Little Joe records? What is this? I never knew what the situation was until Luke started talking about it. And as A.D.E said, man, it's tragic to not have control over something that you created and administer for all of those years. That's a big blow. It's a big blow.
That's rough.
Absolutely.
What you say, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, as an artist, we often run into that. We often get ourselves into deals where, especially with the majors. I found you get yourself into a deal, you get a little bit of bread up front or whatever, but when it comes time later on, if you want to re-release the stuff, you don't own the publishing, or if you only own part of the publishing, it becomes a big hassle to license your stuff out, and you find yourself in litigation more often than not. When you're dealing with bigger labels. Luke Skywalker Records to me was like TVT, a major independent. Even though they were independent, they were still a major label, because to me the definition of a major label is being able to get your music heard, which they did on radio, get your music seen, which they did on MTV, and get your music in the stores. I mean, they had everywhere you went, you saw those records. So for him to lose that, I don't know what transpired, but for him to lose that, I mean, it's a common story. Even if you go back to Stax Records, it's been going on forever. Somebody big comes in, swallows you up, and you lose your stuff, and something that you put all that sweat equity in, and you build this brand, and somebody comes in and takes it from you, man. That's a crime to me, man. That's a shame.
Mm. And the thing is, going back to like his artistry and music, like I could see what MC80 was just saying, man, was like he had a wild sense of humor, and I could tell that just from his songs were funny to me. I didn't look at it like raunchy music. I just looked at it like it was funny, like it was just all just a big joke, like. And I thought this dude's got a hell of a damn sense of humor, man. Talking about the Amtrak and the train, and and then you know, and then that album came out, you know, As Nasty as We Want to Be, and then you know, Florida came under scrutiny for selling the record, and he mentioned in interviews that in Miami at the time was such a lawless place. It was like rape culture, cocaine was prevalent
It was the
in that
Wild
music.
West.
It was the wild, wild west, man, and that record just fell right into it. And but you know, the consequences was that Broward, you know, County Sheriff, what was the name, Nick Navarro, and the American Family Association met with the governor Martinez at the time, who actually made moves to have an obscenity obstruction against it. So how did all of that stuff, like I know MC A.D.E, you weren't really into that sort of humorous stuff in your music, and neither were you, Sean, but I can imagine that stuff had a big effect on other Miami bass, like the Miami Boys, like, you know, Clay D, like you know, there's a lot of different, Jam Pony Express. There were a lot of groups out at the time that were kind of doing that kind of stuff in a way, and I know that that must have affected the way that they created music. Would you agree to that, or do you think people just didn't give a fuck?
Absolutely. I mean, up here on the West Coast, you know, we had Too Short. You know, we had Todd. You know, he's from my town. So, you know, it was the same thing. But what I noticed is immediately when they started putting those stickers on records, that's when the records started to really sell. So, you know, I forget what the politician's wife's name was, but as soon as she tried to put Tipper Gore, as soon as Tipper Gore, all she did was bread those dudes' pockets. That's all she did.
Yeah, that's very true, man. Those were regional records. You know, I remember, you know, Two Live Crew from going back to it. It was just, you know, just China Man and Mr. Mix. And they had What I Like back in '85, and the music wasn't dirty yet. Then they had Throw the D, you know, and they had another MC with them too, where they had Revelation and Beatbox and all that. Then I remember Marquis when they did the full album, Two Live Is What We Are. But my point is, those records were hot regionally. They were very underground. And as soon as they put the stickers on it, as it's going to be, like, everybody wants to buy it at that point. The rest of America says, oh, we can't buy it. We won't. And anytime you tell, you know, you can tell your kid, we probably all parents here, you tell your kids you can't have something, they're going to try that much harder to get what it is that you're trying to keep from them. So if they had just left it alone, you know, the Two Live Crew could originally remained a regional group, but as soon as they, you know, brought all this attention to it, it's on the news every night. Everybody wants to know what they're missing, and then they put the record behind the counter, and you can't sell it, and it blew them up way more than they would have been when they had Throw the D and all that stuff. You know,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Marquis said that when they were doing the booty music in the hood, it was all good, nobody cared. But as soon as it started reaching, you know, white America, all of a sudden it became a problem. You know, it's like then it became lawsuits and all this kind of stuff. And people actually, same thing with NWA, and they put that explicit lyrics sticker on there, and all of a sudden they become like this national, like everybody was checking for it. Then it's like, what are these dudes talking about? You know, that's so bad I can't be hearing it. You know.
Yeah, it's like getting a Richard Pryor album back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where you know, the water's a little murky for me, because we had, you know, like Richard Pryor and, you know, other comedians,
Eddie Murphy,
and whatever. Yeah, you know, and they were, you know, what is it, Fred Sanford, you know, but these people, they were saying and doing and had, you know, this kind of stuff going on. They was talking, you know, all saying, so it's like, you know, and they had on their records parental advisory. You understand? So, you know, that's where it's like, you know, okay, because we had record stores. My dad had 2 record stores. Okay. That was like in 80, 81, 82, 83. You dig what I'm saying? So, you know, I remember all of this stuff. I remember selling those records. And so we already had that in place. What happened was it just, you know, this sheriff, Navarro, you know, he just got a little overzealous, and he was like, he wanted to make a statement. And you got to understand, because Broward County was very, you know, it was like cowboys country. You understand what I'm saying? And we run things here and we tell you what to do. You dig?
Good old boy system, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So you had that kind of mentality going on, and then, you know, Navarro was doing all kind of stuff. He was making the crack, and then he was selling it, you know. Entrapment. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was all kind of bullshit, man. It was just crazy. So, you know, that same kind of, you got to understand who we're talking about, who we're dealing with, these kind of people. So when it came that music, because it was coming out of Miami and Broward County, 15 miles away. So it's coming in their area, and it's like, you know, hey, I run this. And what is that you're listening to over there? You know, and I'm going to make a rule for Broward County. Okay. So that happened, and then it went, and then then the government and all that came in, but it was bullshit, because it was, like I said, it was already in play. You know, you know, Richard Pryor and all these guys, they already had that stuff. That stuff was already on albums, you know. But
I'd say that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I say the only, and I totally agree with you. As one who, you know, I was raised by Richard. I mean, Richard Pryor literally taught me how to curse. I used to sneak to listen to those records. But I think that's the key right there. So the records you're talking about, like, it was a label called Laugh Records, LAFF. And it had Red Fox, and then the sister who played Esther, I can't think of her name. There's a whole group of them that was down with Red Fox. They had those dirty albums. In fact, ironically, Mr. Mix used to cut those comedy albums up on the Two Live Crew records. But that was the stuff that our parents and their friends were listening to in the basements. And they were selling some records, of course. Richard Pryor and they were moving records. But that was an older generation. And if you look at the record cover, it would say X-rated and all that, but they put the label themselves put that on the record, X-rated, and you had to go behind the counter to buy it. I remember as a kid, you had to go behind the counter to get those records.
We sold them. We sold them. You understand? We had 2 record stores, and we sold them, and it was, you know, you come in. I mean, they had a regular cover. They might have had, you know, parental advisory or whatever on it, you know, written on it or whatever. But it was no different.
I'll correct that. I'll say that. I'll say where I lived, you know, most of the time those records were behind the counter, because sometimes the covers they weren't risque, but for the time they were risque. So it depends on the region you were in. But my point with the youth is they were definitely being sold. What I'm saying is
it was not illegal. It was not.
No, it wasn't.
You know,
it wasn't. It wasn't. Right. But and I'm not saying it's right, but the difference comes when you had a younger generation when we started buying those records. It's definitely hypocritical, as you're saying, but these records were out, and we could, like I said, where I was, you had to go behind the counter for the Richard Pryor stuff. These records was in the mall. Sam Goody, you could buy these records anywhere. You know, you didn't have to show no kind of proof of anything. And those records became so popular, and Luke was making so much money. And then, you know, when the attention, you know, nobody knew what he was doing until George Lucas said, "Hey, you can't use Luke Skywalker. That's my trademark." Then that brought more heat on him. So the popularity of it, I would dare say, not as much as Richard Pryor, but the stuff that her name was Wanda something. I forgot her name. Esther and Red Fox. They weren't selling as many records at a point as Luke and them were selling at a point, and this was just when it was regional. So I'm just definitely hypocritical of them. But once the young people start buying those records and they start putting a sticker on it, the rest of mainstream America said, "Wait a minute, what is this record that we can't have?" That group of people, you know.
The difference is, sorry. I think the difference is when the comedy albums were comedy albums, whether they were filthy comedy albums or whatever. But the difference is, once we put that same energy to a beat, now you got the kids that like it.
That's the whole thing. Yep.
That's what blew it up. That's what boiled it over into the suburbs and everything else. Because you'd have some white kids that like Richard Pryor or or Red Fox or whatever. But once you put that beat to it, it was a wrap. The cat was out the bag, and the milk is spilled, and you can't put it back in the container after that.
Like Blue Fly.
Right, but here's my thing. Only thing I'm saying, I get all that. Only thing I'm saying is it was the same stuff. It just probably didn't have the music to it, but it was the same pornographic, raunchy conversation that was going on this stuff. And because this is stuff that actually influenced, like you said, 2 Live Crew. You dig? So it was the same material, but it wasn't legal to sell. I'm talking about that part.
You're right.
You dig what I'm saying? And
You're right.
So when Navarro came in and said this is illegal to sell, that was bullshit. You understand what
I totally agree. We agree.
That other stuff was even more pornographic. That's that Esther was doing and all of that, and was way more pornographic, than what they was doing. They couldn't even get that much material that those Red Sanford them had on a record to say that much, because they had to make records. They had to 2 Live Crew had to make songs, with some kind of continuity, and you dig? So I'm just talking about that part of it. It was all bullshit.
It was. And I add this too. Those records by, I think her name was LaWanda Page, something like that. Like Leroy and Skillet, who used to be on, all of them had, I got all that stuff on Laugh Records. Richard Pryor had stuff on Laugh Records, but like Leroy and Skillet, that stuff was very black. That was like Chitlin Circuit black in the basement listening to it. Wasn't mainstream. When Luke and them were approaching, they weren't mainstream, but they were like what the brother said, as far as putting the beat behind it, it made it way more popular. So the hypocrisy's there. It's the same kind of material, but it's the stuff again. My parents had those records in the basement. This record, everybody on the school bus had it. When I think I was in middle school going into high school when Throw That D was out, and then they answered with Throw the P and all of that. And then it got raunchier and raunchier. So it's more of a mainstream thing, or approaching mainstream.
You had like I remember Richard Pryor at that time. We had an album because he did like Sunset Strip. Okay,
that's right.
And I mean, this was big. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was based off a movie. It was based off a movie, right? Exactly.
Right. So I'm just saying, because I remember this shit verbatim. You understand what I'm saying? I lived it.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, I understand how it happened. You put the beat to it and go to jamming, and hey, now it's enticing the younger generation, because the younger generation wasn't really listening to those, like they parents had it. They might listen to it and laugh and giggle, but it wasn't really a whole interest for them, because the content was like too older.
That's my point. That's my point. Exactly. We on the same page. That's my point.
Yeah. But when they put this beat to it and they start saying, this little stuff now that the young girls can understand, and the young guys can get with, and it became cool. You dig what I'm saying? And it was vibing with. Only thing I was talking about when y'all start talking about the legal part of it.
Sure.
Right.
That's what I was,
certainly.
About,
Sure. And in all fairness, Tipper Gore, one of the first times she became popular was when she put the sticker on Prince's Purple Rain album, which didn't have it at first, but she heard one of her kids heard the lyrics to Darling Nikki, and she heard it. and she slapped a parental advisor. That's how she really got her name out there. Then she started having all of these, and you know, like Molly Crew and Twisted Sister. She got into the rock stuff, and it was like a list of 10 or 15 records that were like supposed to be these Val records, and none of them were rap at the time. Right. None of them were rap at the time. So it was hypocrisy all around. But the one main thread that goes through all of that was, which is ironic to me, when they started putting them stickers on, that's when Suburbia said, well, shit, we want to hear it too. So they really shot themselves in the foot. They made it more popular than it already was.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
That played two ways, because you got to remember, you talk about politicians, and they play games. So what she was doing, she was using that for her party and her situation, her husband, and all of them. You know, so it was, you know, it was all bullshit, like I said. And you know, it backfired on them at the same time, but it helped them because they got their goal accomplished. They got their votes. They got what they needed out of it. And
yeah, it's just like the Broward County sheriff. You know, that sheriff probably wanted to be a judge, and then once you know, and so on and so forth. This is the only reason why they bring these things to light. But especially, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's going to start with the Black community, right? So if you're making a little bit of bread, right, and you start to bubble up a little bit, and you say one, they're watching you a lot more closely than they watch anybody else. But the minute you're making a little bit of money, and then you say one thing that they feel is out of line, then politicians come out and they start passing bills and writing laws. It's always been like that.
Like a scapegoat.
Definitely.
Scapegoat people, and it's so funny because for that little, I guess it was like what Marquis said, is like 7 years for him. That little 7-year career, so much shit happened. But he said that shit happened so fast that by the time it started, it was already done. Because like it just all came crumbling down, you know, because of all the like he said, the fuckery involved in it. But it's to me, it's like Adrian at A.D.E, you were just saying, man, like you have to really get educated, man, on how the business is run and how to handle your business, like especially with your publishing and with your mechanicals and with your all kinds of things. Like I think he said like the most he got paid one time was like 27,000 for a show or whatever, and then the rest of it was like 10,000 here, 10,000 there for a show. Never given per diem money when he was out on the road.
Listen,
never got publishing, none of that.
Let me tell you something. I remember the first show we was when I first met him. I met Luke. Luke came to me. He said, "Hey man, how you doing? I'm a fan, yada yada yada." You know, because all of them was after me, you know. And I was like, "Yo, nice to meet you, cool, boom." We did the shows, and I remember that because we was on a tour bus or what have you, you know, and Luke went back. Okay, he flew. I don't know where he was, but he wasn't on the bus with us. And those guys was on the bus with me. Okay, and they didn't, you know, they didn't have money. You know, I don't even know if they had. I don't even know if they had money to eat. I don't know what the hell was going on. But you know, the shit was crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I you know, I don't know what happened, but I never forget, you know, that shit was crazy. You know what I'm saying?
And Sean, yeah, man, that's why. Because if you ain't getting paid just to eat, and you're this big star, famous.
All I remember, like I said, was just I remember because we on the bus together. You understand what I'm saying? And you know, it was you know, it was Marquis and Wong and Mix, and but my man wasn't there, what have you. I guess he flew back or he did something, but he didn't have money. That's what I remember. You know what I'm saying? And it was like didn't even have, you know, like change. You know what I'm saying? It was like that shit was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been doing shows, we just did, you know, and it's like, you know, I got money. You know what I'm saying? You know, why y'all got me to get, you know, just knickknacks of food or bullshit. What is going on here? You know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy.
That was crazy, you know.
That's
So I don't know
wild,
what
man.
happened, but I remember that, you know.
Hey, Sean, what was that story you were going to tell? What was your story with Brother Marquis when you came to Miami that time, man?
Okay, yeah. So we had just I was in a group called the Wild Boys back in the '80s, and we just got signed to Fantasy Records out in Berkeley, California, and we knew another guy up in San Jose by the name of MC Twist. We were cool with him, and he was signed to Luke Skywalker Records. So he was going to shoot a video called, Rock the House. And he wanted the Wild Boys, because the Wild Boys started off as a dance crew first. So he wanted us to come out to Miami and dance in his video. And subsequently, you know, they're shooting the Me So Horny video at the same time, same weekend. So we get to Luke's club out there, and, you know, we're meeting these big time ballers, you know, Drop Top Bart or whatever, all these people, right? And we walk up to the club, you know, before we get to shoot our little part or whatever. And I see Marquis. He had just bought this brand new Jeep, right? And had the, how New York cats had the Jeeps with the big headlights and everything on them, and all the lights and the whole. It was clean. I think it was like a kind of like a candy light brown Jeep. And I never met the guy. You know, I'm 18 or whatever. I never met him. I didn't know anybody out there in Miami. And for some reason, he just walked up to me and said, "Hey man, you want to take a ride?" You know, I said, "Hell yeah, the Jeep is dope, man." He's like, "Yeah, let's go get a sack." I said, "I'm with that." So this guy, I known him all of 3 minutes. We jump in his Jeep, and he takes me to freaking Liberty City to go buy some weed. And I mean, I've seen the hoods. You know, I'm from Oakland, in Hayward. I've seen some hoods. When we got to Overtown or Liberty City or wherever, I mean, I was like, wow. You know, when Dave Chappelle is talking about little kids out in the corner, the baby selling crack.
Yeah.
I totally related to the whole thing, and I was like, bro, you know, those Jeeps didn't have doors or nothing, no windows. And he just rolls up into the hoods, brand new Jeep with this ropes on and everything. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and all these little kids come out, and they got their little sacks or whatever. He bought. I'm like, dude, if you don't get me back to the club right now, man, I'm like, this is wild, bro. And everybody loved him and knew him, but he had no fear over there. You know, he was just like, you know, he was like, everybody was cool with him. But yeah, we got back to the club. I'm like, you know, I probably shaved off a couple of years off my life in that experience, but we got back to the club, and if you look in that Me So Horny video, you'll see a young Shiny B in the crowd, you know. And first time I ever seen any like real strippers or anything like that. And you know, we went back to Luke's house after that, and we had a crazy party. And I won't tell you the stuff that went on over there, but you know, it was
like a P. Diddy party.
Yeah, it was some real Diddy energy going on back there. But he took a liking to me just by seeing me walk in front of his truck. I was checking out his Jeep. I mean, he was like, "Hey, you want to take a ride?" And I was like, "Let's go for a ride, man." Like you guys said, he was a very funny guy, man. Just had jokes, but like totally fearless, man. Just drive into the hood in a brand new whip and buy a sack of weed from some kids. It's like,
that's crazy, man.
This is wild.
In Liberty City, they had a big riot out there around that time too.
Yeah, it looked the whole place looked like South Africa to me. That's
why we had a big riot way before, you know. Yeah, we had the big riot, McDuffie riot. And then we had another riot that wasn't as big as the McDuffie riot after that, but I remember the McDuffie riot, and I had to been, I don't know, around 12 or something, 11, 12 in that riot, you know, and it was crazy, you know, running the streets and going in the stores, and looting and they had the National Guard, rolling around in Jeeps with M16s, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was savage, you know
It
what
was
I'm
third
saying?
world, boy, back then,
Yeah, it
man.
was third world, man. And
Yeah.
you had when people came through the neighborhood, like some people didn't know at the time, because you have to drive through the city to get downtown and different places like that. And so you had people that didn't realize at that time when that verdict came out that what was going on. And I don't forget it. I remember Jerry Russian, the radio guy, from WEDR 99 Jams. He was like, the dude, and he was on the radio because everybody was waiting to hear what happened. And then when the verdict came out, I think it came out on Channel 10 or what have you, and it came out and they said they found none of them was guilty, yada, yada, yada. And then I remember because we listened to the radio station for the word, like it was the information for us, and so we listening, to the radio, and like even in the projects, how we would have somebody would even have a radio in the window. Okay, anybody take turn, whoever started out that day, and they put their box in the window, and it echoed off the projects, and you can hear the music. Well, this day we was waiting on what Jerry Russian was going to say, because he always spoke like that. We was waiting on him, what he was going to say about what happened with the verdict. And he came out, and I think he kind of lost it. He lost his cool, and he was like, you know what? How long we gonna let this go on? How long we gonna allow them? Now I'm a jit, you know what I'm saying? But I remember this, you know what I'm saying, because it was big for us, And he was like, how long we gonna let this happen? How long we gonna just let them do us? And to me, that was the catalyst, okay, that kicked off what had that riot. You know what I'm saying? And people went to the streets, standing right off 17th Ave, and it was like start having rocks and bottles, and when the cars come down, and certain white folks not knowing, what was going on, still driving through the neighborhood, well, like I said, it was a main drag anyway, and they throwing and different things in the cars, and then it got to Molotov cocktails.
Wow.
Damn.
Got crazy, burning
like
people up in cars.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Them little
it
jits
got real
came out,
savage.
man.
Yeah,
The little
it
jits
got
came
real
out,
bad.
man.
And the whole city, man, they was like, they were just, it was like the people, the inmates was running the yard. You know what I'm saying? And they had, they had the same thing happen in Cali. You know what I'm saying, with that Rodney King thing. So you should know exactly how that went down.
Yeah, I was there. I was there during my buddy was shooting the video, and actually one of Richard Pryor's daughters was in Quincy Jones's daughters was in the video, and we were in a hotel, and we tried to go outside the hotel, and we walked outside, and there's dudes with M16s and the whole thing. So we went back up on the roof, and we watched the whole thing from the top of the roof of this hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but the whole city was on fire, just pockets of fires everywhere. And that was right after the verdict. So we had to wait for like 2 days before we could get back to the Bay Area.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wild times. And then,
right. It's always one thing that sets it off. In LA, it was the Korean lady who shot the girl that really set that whole thing off before Rodney King. That was the power thing. That's what really set it off. People think it was Rodney King, but when she killed that little girl and then shot her in the back, and she got off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole city. I mean, when you got Bloods and Crips uniting together to tear up something and not fight, you know it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It
Yeah.
got bad. Heck yeah, man. And then, you know, Miami 808 mentions 99 Problems. You know, Marquis had a really good creative flow on that song, man. And then we're listening to him about how the business fell out on that. It's like, I think Ice-T paid him in cash, kind of paid him off. And then later on, he wanted to collect publishing or something. He got his lawyers to look into it. And of course, that's considered snitching. You know, in the rap community, they consider going to your lawyer and trying to file a suit as a form of snitching. So he lost a lot of respect with Ice-T on that one. It's like, wow, because that was a huge song, especially when Jay-Z re-released it, of course. But I don't know how that business.
I don't know what the deal was. He made one deal and then he wanted to go back and make another deal. That's something else. You know, I don't know what happened with him and Ice with that, but the fact that he got a lawyer and that's considered snitching, man, eat a dick. Man, look at here, man. How these cats, you know, consider snitching today, you know what I'm saying? And all that is real lame. You know what I'm saying? You know,
lawyer
it's like,
snitching.
Yeah, like you know, it's a lot of stuff that they do and call snitching. You know, I ain't from that. I ain't from that era. I ain't from that school where you know, it's like the only thing I know you and your people and y'all went and did something, and then you get caught and you tell on them. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you snitch. But this other stuff, somebody come and, you know, and robbing, you know, come rob your mama and rob you or do this and that, and the police come around. You might not call the police, but the police come. You understand what I'm saying? And now you put in a situation. Look, I want you. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something real. I remember one time I was supposed to be going. I was going. My homeboy, right? He hit me up. Yo, he's like, yo, let's roll. You know, and I'm like, okay, we finna roll. And he come to pick me up, and he was like, I mean, he didn't have no license, right? So he said, and he knew I used to always be strapped. So he said, man, don't bring your gun today, you know, because if we get pulled, and you know, because they used to always pull us for some reason. But he was like, if we get pulled, I don't want to go through that, and I ain't got no license. So I leave my gun at the crib. Then he oh, I didn't mean to say that. I know this thing here, but anyway, so he wrote, and then get to the car wash. They're chilling, you know, and some dude runs up on me, and he's like, "Yo, get up!" He you know, the jury or whatever I had on, right? And I'm so hot right now, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, because thank God I didn't have it, because I know I would have tried something, you know what I'm saying? And I was, you know, because I'm upset right now, you know. So he's standing here and he's trying to rob me, and I'm like, I'm just zoned out. I look at my homeboy and I'm like, you see this? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I left my gun because I left the thing because you asked me. You understand what I'm saying? And now this is happening. And so the dude like, man, attention, like, really, what's going on? So he takes the gun, he takes the thing, and then he take it sideways and hit me in the back of my head, right? And when he hit me, because he was real cock diesel, you know, and he hit me with the gun, hit me with it, and then my head goes down. Now I'm standing up, and he hit me, my head dropped like this, And but something happened weird right then, because when he did that, I was already angry, but I got so angry that he hit me, the blood in me, just like it's like he knocked me out, but I'm standing. I ain't fail or nothing. But I got so angry that he put his hand, he touching me now. You understand what I'm saying? It's bad enough he trying to rob me, but now he gonna hit me. And I just like opened my eyes, and I just wanted to eat him at that point. You know what I'm saying? And he looked at me, he looked in my eyes, and he threw it in my side. He said, "You move, I'm gonna burn you." I had nothing at that point. I couldn't do nothing. I'm just super angry. And he snatched my jewelry, you know, tell me to go in my pockets. I'm so pissed I don't even go in my pockets. I ain't going in my pocket. I'm stupid. Okay. So he take my stuff and he runs. Somebody across the street saw what was going on by the store, right? So they call the police. So the police come over where I'm at, right? And they like, what happened? Whatever, you know. I got robbed. Okay, robbed me, yada yada yada. You know, and yeah, he whatever he looked like, whatever. I don't, you know, I told him whatever. Boom, boom, boom. So people would say that's I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because for one, you know, it was I was two ways about it. Like I didn't care. I didn't care if they caught him because I wanted my jury back. I hope y'all go find him and catch him. You understand what I'm saying? So I can get my jury back. I ain't think about none of that other stuff. You understand what I'm saying? And then on the same note, I want to kill him myself.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because truth be told, I went searching for him. Okay, after I went back to the crib and I went wherever, I didn't know the dude, but you know, people who knew him or whatever, and God knows I was gonna empty my clip on him straight up. You understand what I'm saying? But you know, and I remember he did at some point, some kind of way, the police did catch him.
Oh, you broke
Call
up.
me, you know. Okay, yeah, I had another homeboy call me, and he was a street dude, jacker, robber, this and that. And he called me, and he was in prison. He was like, "Yo, A.D, what's up, man?" I'm like, "What's up?" He was like, "Oh, that's him was me, yo, don't say nothing or press or this and that or go through whatever. I'm not even really paying attention to what the legal system is doing because all I'm concerned about, I wanted my jury. You understand what I'm saying? So he was like, man, don't say nothing about tell them you want to drop it, this and that. I say, tell him to give me back my jury. Tell him to give me back my stuff, and yeah, we can drop it. But they don't give me that back. I don't care what they do to him, because if I would have found him, I'd be in jail right now. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't care about none of that. Period.
Yeah.
And anybody talking about snitching, this and that, I want the worst thing to happen to you at that point. You understand? Whatever it is. You know, myself, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I'm telling you straight up. You know, so it's best you away from me. You know, but that man, please, y'all got me twisted for real. Snitching. Okay, I got you snitching, son. I got something for you. Believe that.
He gonna mess up with the bass mechanic, man.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, man. I'm just keeping it 100. You know what I'm saying? Because the next time that happened to me again in the city where you was, Sean, in Liberty City, and dudes ran up on me like that, and Yeah, and I shot all 3 of them. You understand? And you know what I'm saying? So I'm just keeping it
Everybody gets
2-up.
the smoke.
Yeah, real talk. You know?
They should be. Hey, they should be honored to be shot by the bass mechanic.
That's right. Hey, mechanic. Hey,
They'll tell that to their grandkids.
hey, I'm gonna put a video together, and I'm gonna have somebody pulling A.D.E over in the car. Hey man, where's your license? Who are you? And he's gonna turn around and say, I am your bass mechanic.
Mechanic.
That's crazy.
Hell yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Wild. Yeah. Well, look, man, we've gone for an hour. I don't want to hold you brothers too long, man. It was a great conversation and
Appreciate it, man.
covered a lot of territory. I'm glad you guys could come on. I'm really honored you guys could come on and we could speak on Brother Marquis. Rest in peace.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right,
prayers
guys.
up for his family.
Yeah, prayers go up for the family.
Definitely.
He will be missed by so many people. That's real. That is very real.
Yeah,
left the legacy,
man. You know, Marquis, man, like I said, man, you know, eccentric guy, but you know, really, you had love for him. You had to love it. You know what I'm saying? Because he was who he was. He was a genuine person to his character, and you know, I hated to see him go through that pain. I seen that thing on Vlad that he talked about, and you know how he was. I could see the hurt in him. You know, when him talking about it. It was sad, man. You know, and sad the world to see. You know that and how that went on. You know, but I say this too. You know. It's a good and a bad to everything, and you know I really feel like, you know, at the time, because even like that music, you know, I didn't grow up like that, whereas you would do that kind of music in front of your parents or talk or say those kind of things in front of your parents and stuff like that. So I didn't agree with that kind of music going out to the public, to the kids and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I mean, the stuff was jamming. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like it was damaging, you know what I'm saying, to us as well in a major way. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of girls on the pole. You know what I'm saying? We got, because that was taboo. You dig what I'm saying? Like when they went to the club, they snuck to the club. They ain't let nobody know they was going to strip and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
And now it's accepted. It's like the Cardi B. We live in that era of
we live in the era of ratchetness right now. Super ratchetness.
Super cold culture, man.
They broke that straight up.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Them and Too Short. And you know, that's what got it off. That's what kicked it off. You know, you know, Blowfly first. I would say Blowfly first.
Yeah. But like y'all was saying earlier, the younger generation, you understand what I'm saying? This is when the young girls and stuff and guys really started getting real illicit. You know what I'm saying? With behaviors and different things like that. And that came from that.
Right.
What you think, Jay?
I agree. I mean, you know, Blowfly, you know, it's interesting. That's another one that, you know, I remember having to sneak to listen to those records, but he was obviously being a comedian at the time. You know, he was a recording artist, you know, in a serious way, but that was his alter ego. And he was being silly on those records, you know, Rap Dirty and all of that. They were funny records. But and in the beginning, some of the 2 Live Crew stuff was funny when they first got dirty. But then as it traveled and became regional, then it morphed into gangster rap. I totally agree with what A.D.E said. You know, I didn't come up like that either. Even though I listened to Richard Pryor, and like I said, I was raised by those records. We came from a time where that was taboo. That's what you did in the basement or whatever. And when it became mainstream, there was a lot of damage done. And I'm glad to hear people involved in hip hop admit that, you know, that came in on our watch, because it did.
Yeah. I think all the female rappers right now are basically spawns of Little Kim. You know, Little Kim. They're the daughters of Little
Foxy
Kim.
Brown. Yep.
Foxy Brown. Absolutely.
100%.
Remember Anaquette?
I remember Anaquette. She's on Luke Records. Yep.
Now, what is you was talking about Blowfly? You know, that was his character. You know, and I knew him personally. You know,
Clarence Reed. Clarence Reed was his name.
He was much older than me, but he was, you know, dealt with my dad and stuff like that. So, you know, that was his character. When he was around, he was just this, you know, he's just wild.
Yeah, he had a cape, you know, he had a cape on, and you know, every album, you know, all the albums, those album covers were definitely in my area. They were behind the counter because he had, you know, he had naked women, or either the, you know, you had the lady's breasts were, you know, distorted on the record cover, because, you know, it was an underground comedy thing, and it was obvious there was comedy. But once this thing morphed into what it morphed to, the rapper's whole thing was, this is really me. I'm keeping it real. So they were, you know, the kids can't see that this is just something you're doing to make money. They don't know that NWA used to be the world class wrecking crew, and they did a song called The Cabbage Patch written by Ice Cube. The kids don't know that. They think that this is what it is. And I think that was a dangerous, and I'm not blaming just NWA for mainstreaming that, but because, you know, Just Ice had a record called That Girl Is a Slut in '86 that fell below the you know, the meter. But once those records became, you know, once the door flew open and that Pandora's box opened, it was a negative thing for our generation. And as we see now,
suffering from it today. You understand what I'm saying?
We are in a major way.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I knew back then when I saw it coming. You know what I'm saying? That
me too.
It wasn't cool. This wasn't gonna turn out well. Even though I was young, I knew it wasn't good for the culture.
I knew it wasn't either. You know? I knew it wasn't either. I saw it. I saw it coming.
The difference now is in the 90s we had guys that weren't gangsters making gangster music. Now we have guys that actually are killers and gangsters that rap. That's the difference.
There you go.
They're shooters first and rappers second.
Yeah, I never like I used to listen to Schoolie D, and I used to think his records were kind of hard, but I never thought that was going to really catch on. But then I heard Ice-T kind of do some of the same
in the morning,
and then it started growing from there. And then when NWA came, I mean, it was a rap, man.
But look how it's grown up. If you go back and listen to PSK, which, you know, Rolling Stone magazine called, you know, they kind of helped coin the term gangster rap, because that term don't come from us. They heard PSK and they said, oh, it's a violent record. I never thought PSK was an extremely violent record, not compared to what it became. If you go back and listen to PSK now, that ain't nothing compared to like what this thing blew up to. That's like, you know, that's rated G compared to what it became.
Yeah, this drill stuff is out of control. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, they coin a lot of things and they give it name. That's just like Miami. Okay, so I started that whole thing, right? What they call Miami bass, but that was not something that I called it. That was not even something, you know what I'm saying, that I was even thinking about, because only thing I was doing was I was making music with a lot of bass in it. That was it. You know what I'm saying? I would have never called it Miami bass, because that would have been lame to me. I'm gonna just tell you straight up. You know what I'm saying? So, but that was something, you know, they came up with a term, and that's what it's considered today, you know.
Well, that's always the case. You know, at one point there was no name for the music we did. Nobody called it hip hop until, you know, Africa Bambaataa was having an interview, and somebody from a major New York publication said, "What do you call this?" And off the top of his head, he just said hip hop, but we didn't call it anything.
Right. I think Man Parish was speaking on that when we did that
stream culture, because they want to box it and sell it, so they need a name for it. In my opinion.
So Africa Bambaataa came up with that hip hop.
Yeah, I think Bam was the first person that coined that phrase and use it in that context. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good information to know. I didn't know where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's interesting, man.
JAYQUAN, you froze on us, man.
Yeah.
He's in the iceberg right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. But yeah,
Man.
man. So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's amazing the short amount of time that man had his career for so much the change in the music not only just in the music industry, but it's affected entire society and culture, because music is part of culture, of course. So it's just
Absolutely.
but
really,
he
it's really
knew one
wild,
thing I
man.
want to say too. He knew that kind of music or what have you, he wasn't like oblivious to the fact that it wasn't good for the culture and for the kids. He knew that. These
Who you talking about?
conversations.
I lost
Marquis.
y'all for a minute. Who you talking about?
Marquis.
Okay, got you, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he
knew
had
that.
to have known. I mean, Luke and those
Yeah.
guys had to have known. But I think that, the ultimate goal is money, right? It's the
Right.
root of all
Mm,
evil. So
mm,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of us looked at it like, well, to keep us out of the streets, we could talk about the streets and get paid, and talk about sex and get paid, and talk about murder and get paid, and we don't actually have to do it. So I
Yeah.
think that was kind of like, that they're looking at it like the lesser of two evils. But what actually happened, yeah, it turned into a lot of stuff happening on the streets because of those records. And I think now is even more of a prime example with all the social media, kids dissing each other on Instagram and immediately going out and killing somebody afterwards. So it's like, the news travels so fast, right? And if you say something about somebody, instantly everybody knows about it. Now you look like a clown. Now you're going out and you're going to do something, and it's a sad thing. But this is where it all came from the Millie Jacksons all the way down to,
Yeah,
to
right.
now. This
That's
is where it
right.
all started, and if you
Right.
put something negative out into the world, you're going to get negative back. There's no way around that.
But
Fact.
yeah.
real quick, man. I lost you guys for a second. If you think about how quote unquote innocent this music used to be, or at least how we used to at least be very heavy handed with censoring it. The first rap record that we give credit, Rappers Delight, first popular record. There was a line where Big Bang Hank said "super sperm." On the radio, they would beep out the word sperm.
Yeah.
When Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five made the message, when he said "pissing on the stairs," they would beep out the word "piss." That's how much we were censoring this music because of whatever we had at the time. It was a different time. Now look, if you listen to the radio, when DMX he got a record where he said you can suck my, they play it. They censor it, but they censor it so poorly that you know what he said. So it went from the first almost 10 years there not being a need for a clean version of a record. Outside of a few times when somebody cussed, I think a few of the records might have said shit or something like that. But it went from now like every other word is a cuss word. They rhyme.
This is exactly why I make the music that I make right now, because I really want to take it back to that era where it was fun. It was b-boying, it was graffiti, it was DJing, it was MCing. This is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. For what you just said,
I salute you. I salute you for that, man. Because, like I said, we all know what the cuss words. We know they came from the street, but I mean, like I said, there was a time when it was few and far between to hear these things on a record, and then it got to the point, once one thing happens, and then it becomes successful, people find a need to push the envelope. Okay, somebody said this on a record, I'm going to say this. And then it's like, how can you outdo the last thing? Then it's got to the point where there's no shock value no more. I mean, anything goes,
That's what I was about to say, man. Like, it's kind of like the whole earring thing. People used to wear earrings to piss off the squares. Well, now the squares are wearing them. It's like, you're not doing anything.
I just wanted to say, what I was saying, like I said about Marquis, because I know people will look at it like with the music that they was making, like they didn't care, they weren't conscious of the girls and the community and stuff like that, but he was, what I'm saying. And he, you know, he did it like Shawnee say, you know, he did things, I guess, because that was what was put in front of him, and that was what was told that was going, you know, he had to do to get a check. I don't think he wanted to do a lot of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But because he knew better too, you know what I'm saying? But you know, he did it for whatever reasons or whatever, and you know, but he did have a conscience about it. You know, he did. You know, it wasn't something he was proud of. You know what I'm saying? So,
That
you know,
makes it even worse. That makes it sad, even more sad, because it's bad enough to be famous and broke. Imagine you're real famous, but you ain't got no money. You're just famous. But then on top of that, you're famous for some shit that you didn't even want to do. Like
Yeah.
your whole life is just around fakery, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
kind of
Because ultimately you grow up, right? So the stuff that you used to do and say when you were 15 or 16, you don't say in your 30s, and the stuff that you used to do and say in your 30s, you don't say in your 40s, and so on and so forth. And then you find God, like I did, you know. So
yeah,
it's a I mean, if you're the same that you were in your 50s that you was in your 20s, then you know you're a loser. As far as I'm
you ain't grow at all.
and
That's right.
evolving. You're right.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I got gangster rap records out there from 1995 that I could never let my mother listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I heard one the other day. I was just scanning through you, and I saw it.
I'm not proud of that.
Listen
You
to
know what I
Shawnee
mean?
B, man. Look at him.
well, you know, like Shawnee was saying, and the ugly truth, like Shawnee said, well, he's doing music and he's doing it where it doesn't have this kind of content and stuff like that. You know, to convince this generation now to put the genie back in the bottle.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Man, dude,
Forget
you know,
about it.
yeah, it's, you know what I'm saying, it feels too good now. You understand what I'm saying?
It's too lucrative.
Yeah,
Too much money being made. Yeah.
it's rough. Yeah,
But I like to say, man, you know, it wasn't just, you know, a few brothers who got caught up in that particular subject matter regretted it later. I was good friends with Reddy Red from the Ghetto Boys, rest in peace. And he would tell me all the time how everybody in the Ghetto Boys, they all, you know, they came from 2-parent households. They, you know, they made good grades, but the gangster image was a way for them to get into the industry. So, you know, they did some exaggeration of what they saw in their neighborhood. And he said, Jay, it got to the point where, you know, real thugs and real gangsters was coming to our shows. So we had to start carrying guns. It's like a CB4 thing. So it becomes a thing of, you know, art generating, art imitating life, or, you know, or vice versa. But he said we weren't those kind of kids, you know, growing up. And he regretted what he gave. You know, he was the first person to sample Scarface, and, you know, in rap. On a major rap record, and he wasn't proud of that legacy, like we said, once he got to a certain point. So many of us got to that point where we grew up and said, man, you know, what have I done type thing, you know?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something too. It was good for me because I probably would have, you know, at least cursed more in my music or said stuff, not the fake gangsterism and stuff like that.
Right, sure.
You know, a little more profanity and stuff, but you know, the elders that was around me was like, you ain't got to do that. You know, you don't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't something, you know what I'm saying? It kept me in line and kept me, you know what I'm saying, with boundaries. You know, because, you know, that's one of the reasons really after the years that I just like, I felt lost in the game because I was like, what, you know, when all the gangster music started coming out and all the, you know, all that type of stuff, I felt lost because I'm like, man, I can't do that stuff. I felt like, you know, these dudes is making up stuff and they talking, they saying anything, and I can't, you know what I'm saying? I just wasn't with it. You know what I'm saying? So I just didn't want to do it. So it made me just back up from the game. You know what I'm saying?
You made some attempts, like you did that song "Hit Hard," and
no, Hit Harder was a real record for me. You understand what I'm saying? When I'm talking about riding around, going around with 17 in the clip with the Glock, and that was the first record talking about that, talking about a Glock or whatever. That was real for me.
That
you
was
understand
real
what
life.
I'm saying? Yeah, that was real life. That's how
when I did the GGSB record, in 1995, that's exactly how I was living at that time. That's how a lot of us were living at that time, but once you move out of that, right, you can't rap about that anymore. I mean, it's silly for you to rap about that, especially when you change. For a person like me, who's a man of faith, man of God, follower of Christ. I can't rap about that.
These guys were making up stuff though. It was different.
Absolutely,
they making it up.
It was acting. It was a character.
They were creating stories. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, Hit Hard, Hit Harder was real for me. I be in my slippers and robe, you know what I'm saying? Hop in the Benz and I'm rolling, you know what I'm saying? And I'm strapped, I'm about that life. You understand what I'm saying?
And back then, music was a lot different, man, because you had to be very honest, man. People would call you out. And then you couldn't even bite people. There was a thing called biting. You couldn't even steal somebody's style or genre.
You could be lying and making up stuff.
You couldn't do that back then.
No. But when they started doing too much, it just got real crazy. And I just was like, I said what I said, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't going no further than that, man. I had enough.
It's so much worse now. It's so much worse today. I mean, with the drill stuff and the stuff that's coming out of certain cities, man, it's so much worse now. Like I said before, it was called gangster rap, but most of those guys weren't gangster. Maybe Eazy-E was, was the only dude who really had his feet in the street like that, But nowadays, everybody's a killer first. They got bodies on them before they even touch the microphone. It's insane.
And I would say, you know what I'm saying, even though, I was, keeping it a buck and saying what was going on or whatever, telling my truth, I am part of the blame as well, because I did it on, a level 2, you know what I'm saying? Now it's on a level 10, but I contributed, whatever I did, you know what I'm saying? When I was talking about doing this and carrying this and ready to whatever, even though I was keeping it, you know what I'm saying? I still contributed to where we are today.
Absolutely. You take responsibility for it. That's the biggest thing you can do as a man, is say what it is, Same here. Like I said, I think that was the one record I even though it was well done, well produced, well written, I never could let my mother listen to that record. And I never had a record before that I wasn't proud to show my moms. And that one record, I could never let her hear that record, So
again, to show you how things have changed, man, and how we are. I remember James Brown saying when he made Sex Machine, he didn't want to let his parents hear it. He's or his elders in his family. He said that was, up until that time, he said he never wanted to make a record that he couldn't let his whoever was that raised them hear. And Sex Machine, he ain't saying nothing except get on up. I want to be a sex machine. and that's how different it was. People would defend it. People would defend it by saying, "Well, when this person said this, he meant this." We were so innocent back then. When Grace Jones made "Pull Up to My Bumper," I was probably 12 years old, and she said, "With your big black limousine driving in between." We didn't catch that. The adults might have known. Or more Bounce to the Ounce was a song about women with big breasts. I didn't know that until a few years ago.
I didn't know that. You just told me something.
You just told me something new too.
Go back and listen to the little bit of lyrics in it. I like to watch them bounce, and then in the middle he goes brr, brr, like he's got his face.
Wow. I didn't think about that, man.
So so we can't make the excuse the whataboutism of well they did it too, because they were making records for adults. Even the adults didn't know sometimes that there were double entendres there. We took the double entendre out and we went straight in to say, boom, this is what it is. And it affected a few generations. We living with it now.
Yeah.
Well, I would say this too. The ultimate culprit here is the evolution of man, and it is man with sin. You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
And you know,
Amen.
sin. Yeah, you know,
How you
sin.
preaching?
Yeah, sin is the
Hey,
ultimate.
it's gotten so bad. Like, think about how innocent we're talking about how times were back then. Just last year, I think there was some local rapper here in my city that he got on Facebook. He released a little single, and then he put on Facebook, "I'm so hard. I'm a bad, I'm a bad dude. I'll kill you, blah blah blah. I dare anybody, any one of you jits to come to my house and try to smoke me."
And
And
somebody
they
did
came,
it.
and then they came to his house an hour later and smoked him. Like, that's sad,
Happens
man.
all the time. You know, the trolling thing, and I won't even call it hip hop, just rap music right now is crazy. I mean, they'll make a record and then they'll taunt you, and then here's the sad part. Once that dude probably got killed, a lot of his friends, his ops probably started making songs about him getting killed.
Yo, they did.
And
Yeah.
and then and back and forth and back and forth. So that happens a
Oh
lot
man,
too.
they desecrate each other's graves. You know, some rapper got killed, you know, and somebody went and desecrated his grave and put it online. You know, these cats are savage at this
Yeah,
point.
I saw that. Then they caught up with him and tortured him or something.
Yeah, it's savage at this point. It's beyond music at this point. One of the biggest things we were wrong about was back when this first started happening. We were saying, "Oh, it's just music." It's never just music. You know, music plays too much of a big part in our subculture. It wasn't just me. We were wrong about that. It was just music.
This is the thing. You know, the Bible says the power of life and death is in the tongue. So whatever comes out of your mouth, you have the power of life and death. People have been getting killed over words since the beginning of time, right? Wars have been started over words since that Bible is spot on.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And the
man.
best thing we can do is have real discussions like this, you know, and so that the kids that's hearing this music and stuff like that, but they're hearing the flip side of it, you know, and hearing how, you know, it can turn out bad, you know,
cause and effect.
Yeah. So, you know, and they can make a difference. They can make a change, because you can go and be as nasty as you want to be. No pun intended. You can, you know, you can do whatever you want to do, but it don't end well. Just
you can throw all the D you want to throw, but you probably don't catch a disease if you do that.
Yeah. So you understand, you know, any kids listening to this, young folks or what have you, just a price to pay. And trust me, when it's time to pay it, you ain't gonna be willing to pay it, and you ain't gonna like it, you know. So you just really realize that, you know, if you can make different decisions. You can make different decisions that can affect your your family, your life, and you may think that money is all good right now, and you go get that money, but it gets away from you. You don't keep it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. It turns out bad. It turns out ugly. You know,
not all money is good money, man.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
just understand that. You know, listen to what we're saying, see how we made mistakes and what we did, and hopefully you can help the next generation that's coming along by changing your life, or at least not just even damaging your life. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on you right now. It will have its effect on others, but just focus on yourself right now and what you can do for yourself, and keep out of these traps, man. Because everybody want to hang out in the trap, but
that's
you know, trap ain't where it's at, for real.
No, trap is a trap.
Trap is a
trap. Exactly what it is.
Man, and you know, you guys carved out a good living for yourself, like A.D.E, Sean. You guys have kept it clean, kept it all above board, and look at you. You're still here today at my age, still doing it, still getting it, man. And that's,
I always say my favorite rapper, and I say pound for pound, hands down, the best MC to ever do it is Rakim.
Yes,
and
sir.
Rakim, I don't think I've ever heard him say one curse word on a record.
Yeah,
I could be mistaken, but I don't remember it.
I think it's 2 times, but it was so like you know, smooth the way he did it, and part of what he I think, you know, on the first song, I think on Melody, check out my Melody, he said, "Hey, pull up a chair and I'm gonna tear shit up," but you didn't catch it because you know, it wasn't, you know, sometimes you gotta say a cuss word, you know, I mean, sometimes you gotta say damn instead of darn, you know, like, but at this point, these guys is vulgarity just for the sake of vulgarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
I hear you, JAYQUAN. I can't say that there's ever validation for any kind of, you know, anything, you know. It's just that's a slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? Because
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It
is all about context.
Yeah.
Yeah, and emphasis. Like if you got a word you want to emphasize, you know. Yeah, you know, like even in this conversation,
I'm not a saint to it. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like, you know, to keep it a buck. You know, it's just we just got to be careful with stuff like that because everybody, you know, can justify what they do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All the time.
And this is why we should not be justifying anything.
That's not the
You
goal.
understand what I'm saying? That goes against,
sure.
you know, you know what I'm saying?
That's
understood.
Right. I agree, man.
Well, look, brothers, I got to get out of here. I enjoyed this, man. It's a real conversation, and I'm honored to be part of it. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt, Jay. Thanks for coming through, man. We're about to wrap up. I don't really have too much I can really contribute to the conversation anymore, unless you dudes want to say something else.
That's it, man. Hey, thank you for having me. A.D.E, love your stuff, bro. Since I was a kid,
thank you,
know, a lot of wisdom in your words too, and thank you for having me on. You know, God bless you guys, and have a great day, man.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you guys. Appreciate you, and we're gonna catch up soon.
Absolutely.
Especially me and you, Sean. We got some stuff to do.
Okay. All right. Let me know, bro.
All right, man. We'll holler.
Peace.
All right. Thank you, guys.
You got it, man. Bye-bye.